We have breaking news this fine Friday. Donald Trump has appointed a physician special. Oh, wait, this can't be right. No, that can't be for real. CNN, really? Oh, sweet Lord, okay. Donald Trump's response to the growing Hantavirus outbreak has just ignited. What am I even supposed to say? Donald Trump has just ignited a penis scandal, something Pete Hegseth knows all too well. If the growing number of hantavirus cases has you spooked, if you thought Trump's disastrous COVID response might have taught him some wisdom, have you got another thing coming? This big swinging scandal coming up next here on The David Reddish Show. Welcome to the show and happy Friday, beautiful viewers. I am your host, as ever, asking you to subscribe to our channel now to stay up to date on the news and so you don't get tallywhacked by underreported stories like this one. We turn now to the outbreak of the deadly Hantavirus. Following a sudden eruption of cases aboard a luxury cruise liner, others have begun to spring up nationwide in patients not connected to the cruise in any way. This despite President Civilis assuring the public it was under control. Something he also did during COVID. ABC News has more.
Tonight, the number of Americans being monitored following that deadly hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship growing to at least 41, while that sick passenger in France remains in intensive care, relying on an artificial lung to survive. At least a dozen states now tracking 25 passengers from that ship, as well as an additional 16 people who the CDC says were not on the cruise, but may have been exposed to an infected person during travel, including on flights. Overnight in Kansas, 3 people were transferred to the hospital for observation after officials say they had high-risk exposure to an infected person while abroad. The 3 were not passengers on the ship. It comes as we are learning that American who initially tested positive for hantavirus is now medically cleared and may have gotten a false positive.
I'm fairly confident that he never had hantavirus. That doesn't necessarily mean that he didn't have an exposure, but at this point it doesn't appear that he had the disease during his cruise.
Dr. Stephen Kornfeld, released from the biocontainment unit at the University of Nebraska's Medical Center, now moved to the quarantine unit where 15 other Americans are being monitored.
Scary news, right? Well, I hate to break this to you, but it gets worse, and much funnier, so stay with me here. It's important for us to stress at this point that if COVID PTSD has you worried about another pandemic just 5 years later, take a breath. The good news is hantavirus is nowhere near as contagious as COVID, and even in its current form, doctors assure the public that human-to-human cases remain extremely rare. That's a good thing, considering hantavirus does not have a cure in humans, and treatment options remain limited. But not to worry, of course. President Strokey Pants, which might take on a new meaning in this context, Trump has appointed Dr. Brian Christine, one of the top public health officials in charge of infectious disease policy, as a point person to handle the outbreak, and he has been given press conferences to keep the media updated. But there's another rising story here. A new report has revealed that not only does Christine have a dubious history when it comes to pseudoscience as well as supporting Trumpian lies, he's not exactly an expert in virology. In fact, he made a name for himself as, get this, a penis implant specialist. Take a look at this, and no, I do not mean his wang. CNN reports this morning that an extensive investigation has revealed that before he joined the Trump administration last year, Christine was an Alabama-based urologist who specialized in penile implants. Maybe it goes without saying, but he has little public health experience. He does, true to Trump trends, however, have a history of far-right conspiracy theories, including that the 2020 election was stolen, that vaccines don't work, and he claimed that George Soros was behind the COVID pandemic with the usual anti-Semitic overtures. As a Trump official, he's targeted transgender people, trying to ban their health care, which is really ironic considering that he used to cater directly to transgender people in his work selling penile implants. CNN uncovered a video podcast series by Christine called Erection Connection. We were tempted to show an episode here, but they are graphic, and I mean that on several levels, and they would likely leave viewers flaccid. Ironically, Christine has also opposed abortion rights even in cases of rape and incest and compared the Biden administration to Nazis. I swear I'm not making this up, people. Dr. Christine isn't just any old Trumpian grifter hired to parrot Trump's lies. He's a man that specializes in cyborg dong, in implants to help with erectile dysfunction. No wonder he's close with Trump. And implants to increase the size of a man's appendage. So no wonder he knows every dang man in this administration. I wonder if Trump got Hegseth, Patel, Rubio, Vance, and the rest of his barnacles a group discount. Given all the SDE, again, that's the opposite of BDE, look it up if you don't know, but not at work. Given the tiny tabernacle energy of this administration, not to mention the entire GOP, I could see it. When Dr. Christine treats Mike lost his Johnson, he could do a whole ad campaign titled Johnson with Johnson. And suddenly the House Speaker has a second career. Moving on. Christine's credentials don't exactly fill me with confidence that he's prepared to take on a massive Hantavirus outbreak, so everyone say a prayer. The man in charge doesn't know viruses, but he does know Tricky Dick, which is appropriate for politics. I'm reminded of something my dad used to say to me. We'd be driving around my tiny Illinois farm town as a kid, and he'd meet someone who wasn't quite right in the head, and he would turn to me after the dude moved on, and Dad would say, "He's a bit of a ding-a-ling," which seems to be an apt title for Brian Christine, don't you agree? Remember, to stay up to date on all breaking stories and how Dr. Ding-a-ling is managing public health, hit the subscribe button now. The cock could crow for American health in the very near future. This is the David Reddish Show. I think I'm having too much fun again.